I play games that make me say, I love you, but I hate you, but I love you. That's literally the name of my Fire Emblem Theracia video. But if we talk about franchises as a whole, no other represents that sentiment better than Pokémon.
I will not lose time with the same old story. You perfectly know my feelings for the franchise, which I explained with the Pokémon Legends Arceus video, and especially the Sword and Shield video. God, it's been 3 years already? Just as a quick update, for those who are not up to date with the game shelf lore, I guess, last time I visited this series was with Legends Arceus, and I actually really liked that game, even though I pirated it. I thought it was an honest attempt in pushing the series to new heights. It was the most fun I had with the franchise in years. It left such a good taste in my mouth despite its flaws that it got me a bit more optimistic for the future of the franchise. But reality eventually hit me. This is the Pokémon Company we're talking about. And alas, not too long after Legends Arceus' release, we got a major announcement. Gen 9 is on the way. I made a quick shelf about it, where I said that this reveal made me feel nothing, outside of really liking the starters and disliking the protagonist's designs. My reaction was like a damn, because shit, Gen 9 already? That was so fast. Legends Arceus didn't even get 2 months in the spotlight and we're already giving all the attention to the newest games? I was a bit worried because how much time was spent developing this one? Will we get another rushed product, or an improvement on all previous issues I had with the series?
Both. Yeah, that's appropriate. We got both.
The road to the game's release, at least for me, was pretty calm considering it is Pokémon we're talking about. I didn't think much of it, not gonna lie. I barely saw people arguing over things like the N64 tree from Sword and Shield, and the trailers were fine. A few cool things here and there, but nothing special. However, 1 week before the game's official release, everyone got hit with certain news. These games are a technical mess, and from there I thought 2 things. It's either like Zelda Breath of the Wild, where yeah, the framerate drops at times, but it doesn't ruin the experience. Or these technical issues are because people are emulating the games. And I should know that because I played Legends Arceus on an emulator. So because the previous game left a good taste in my mouth, I wanted to give this new generation a fair chance by actually investing on it. I got the game at a decent price, I picked Scarlet because I started playing the game and oh, damn. Well, back to piracy. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Pokémon Scarlet and Violet are a fucking mess. They run like gas, they freeze at times, the pop-in is ridiculous, the textures glitch all the time, the lighting doesn't work properly, the characters move at 5 frames per second, even while close to the screen. I don't think Game Freak understands how a mirror works, and why did the hand clip through my fucking sandwich? No matter what happens, there's always an issue happening at every passing second, and if it's not that, you're stuck with some of the ugliest visuals you have seen in your life. You cannot even call them PS1 or N64 graphics. That's insulting to those consoles. It genuinely pisses me off that the company who owns the highest grossing media franchise in the world can get away with something this inexcusable. You know, I played Breath of the Wild, which has framerate issues. I played Age of Calamity, which has it worse. Yet, even they don't compare to how bad this game has it. And it's very evident because Scarlet and Violet have a lot of quality of life changes that in theory are good. Healing your team with the press of a button, having boxes available at any time, picking items without going into a full stop, there's barely any loading times in the overworld. Battle transitions happen on the spot. There's even this new mechanic where you send out your Pokémon to instantly fight for you and collect items. And there's barely any Kanto pandering in this game. That has nothing to do with the quality of life changes, but that still made me very happy. All of these are great ideas that suffer because of the technical issues. It's like for every action you take, you have to wait. Waiting for a menu to pop up, waiting for the battle to load, waiting for the attack animations to happen. And all of that while dealing with a frame rate that never stabilizes. There's always something that gets in the way of the enjoyment, and that fucking blows. But you know why I'm also mad? Because if we move all the technical issues aside, this Pokémon game genuinely addressed so many complaints I've had for years. If you can get past the unoptimized mess it is, you can find some real soul underneath it.
Please bear with me, because my feelings for this game are extremely polarized.
Scarlet and Violet have merit, more than Ultra Sun and Moon, much more than Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, especially more than Sword and Shield. With the latter, I know I said that, yeah, I had fun with it, but it's still a pretty mid title that did the bare minimum. Scarlet and Violet deserve credit for taking the Pokémon formula and reinventing it in interesting ways. These games instantly caught everyone's attention by being fully open world. Paldea is a region that stands out with how much liberty you have to explore it. It's not like the locales from Legends Arceus. This map is more akin to Breath of the Wild, if I have to set up an example. But unlike that game, this quote-unquote freedom to explore is weird. So in Scarlet and Violet, gathering all 8 badges and defeating the champion is not the main focus anymore. Now you have 3 different paths to take, each having their own stories and characters, and all of them spread all over the region. You still need to beat all 3 of them if you want to see the ending, but you can tackle them in any order you want, and I found that to be great. It wasn't just a breath of fresh air, I liked the attempt at making all of them feel so different. Victory Road is your standard Pokémon adventure of collecting badges, take on the Elite Four and defeating the champion. The main standout for me here is that in order to fight the gym leaders you have to take a certain challenge. From playing minigames, solving a riddle, do some battling against generic trainers, or sometimes...
Excuse me, sir, but I do believe you've dropped your wallet.
And I thought that was cool. It's like they implemented the Sun and Moon trials in this game, making it a bit less formulaic. Path of Legends has you gathering herbs by fighting this Titan Pokémon whose name is pretty self-explanatory. And this one is very simple. You just battle the Titans and that's it. I mean, don't get me wrong, the story attached to the Titan Pokémon is great, but I don't know, I feel they could have done something more with them. Like how Legends Arceus has you, the trainer, fighting novel Pokémon while avoiding their attacks. It's not bad, but aside from the good story, I think Path of Legends is the weakest route gameplay-wise. I liked it, but it could have been much more. The final route is Starfall Street, where you take down this game's evil team by fighting their leaders. In this you raid different bases by playing this minigame where you make your Pokémon automatically fight smaller ones, culminating with a battle against a leader. The minigame was good, a bit too mindless and easy, but at least it ended up pretty quickly. But the battles against the leaders were honestly pretty damn challenging. Like the one against Mela just straight up kicked my ass, but I liked that. Getting to these stories though obviously requires you to explore all of Paldea. And credit where it's due, this region is massive. It has so many locales and biomes, all of them bursting with so many Pokémon. And here's another boom for the game. It has some of the best selection of monsters to add to your team, and it's nice that a good chunk of them are readily available if you know where to search or are lucky enough. I will say though, visually Paldea is a horrendous mess and the map can feel a bit empty at times. The towns specifically suffer from this because they're big, but there's barely anything to do in them. There's lots of restaurants with meals that give you bonuses, but they still repeat the same restaurants all the time. And the clothing shops don't matter much because the clothing options in this game are severely limited. You cannot even enter houses like in previous games. Oh, wait, never mind, I guess I was wrong there. So yeah, that problem is mostly notable in towns and cities, but it wasn't so bad during the open areas because your legendary Pokémon, which you can ride, is incredibly mobile and fast, only getting better the more Titans you defeat, making it even easier to traverse through the terrain. You can even backwards jump like a Super Mario 64 speedrun to access more areas! And that's not a compliment though, that's just another example of how broken this game is. But what I appreciate is that there isn't just one way to reach a certain area. You can take any path you desire. So many times I will reach to a new location and I wouldn't know if the route I took was the intended one. But the sole fact that I could pace myself to my liking was very nice. But said pacing was not without consequences though, because the difficulty curve in this game is all over the place. Every single story event, from gym leaders, titans and team star bosses, they all have fixed levels, and in your first playthrough there's no way to know which one is closer to your levels. This leads to Scarlet and Violet's difficulty curve to be anything. It can be PCC, very reminiscent of X and Y, it can put you in near unwinnable scenarios, or sometimes the difficulty is actually very good. Can you see why I feel mixed about all of this? This quote-unquote freedom to progress to your liking is a bit artificial, because there's clearly a set route the developers wanted you to take. But there's no way to know that on your first playthrough. And yes, I know Nurse Joy can give you an idea on where to go next, but one of the joys of this game is just letting yourself get loose. I understand having strong Pokémon being an obstacle to stop you from progressing. It's like in Xenoblade games where they all have a gigantic over-level gorilla in the first big area. But at the very least, I wish gym leaders would scale according to your level. That's even accurate to the lore. Like, imagine that when you get a badge, all the other important events gain from 3 to 5 levels, and after a certain number of badges are acquired, maybe you can give gym leaders and team star bosses an extra Pokémon. My main conflict with all of this is that, when the game gets challenging, but fair, it's honestly very enjoyable. Finding gym leaders and bosses are on my level, and everything about the endgame stuff was really damn good. They were battles where strategy and good preparation mattered, so it was a bit underwhelming that said excitement was mostly tied to luck. And I hope that in the future they can address that because I really enjoyed this formula for the most part. It was so cool making my own adventure based on my own decisions. Even when talking to friends, I was genuinely interested in how much their experience differed from mine. One of them will find a Gible in the early game, another will fight the Ice-type gym leader, one of the highest level ones during the first half of the adventure, and another one will ask me for help because he was getting fucked by an overpowered Lucario. And speaking of friends, the multiplayer of this game was... alright, I guess. Battling, trading, and going on raids with other people is still a bigger hassle than it needs to be. One of Scarlet and Violet's main selling points is that up to 4 players can be the same world and explore to their liking. It sounds cool in concept, but it doesn't really make a difference. Having more than one person in the map doesn't bring anything new or interesting. Nobody gets in the way of one another nor help each other while exploring. The only good thing about this though is that, say, if you have Violet and you visit the world of someone who owns Scarlet, you can catch the exclusive mons of that version, and I found that very cool. You can even make sandwiches together that gives everyone different effects, and I won't deny we couldn't stop laughing when we made this monstrosity. I feel there is potential here for something more. But if I had to describe the multiplayer of this game, it's just there, it's inoffensive, but holy shit it can unintentionally be hilarious at times. My experience with this game, if we somehow managed to push the technical difficulties aside, was overall positive, and normally I will give all the credit to how this game pushed forward the Pokémon formula. And that's true, the changes done to it were good. But you know what's a bonus I didn't expect? The story and characters are honestly great! I know the standard is not very high for this series, but I will personally put the narrative of this game almost on the same level as Gen 5. I love that gen! It's my favorite! I think what surprised me the most is that you have 3 stories, and all of them are very engaging in their own way. Victory Road was the standard adventure with nothing too crazy going on, but it was fun and charming. Path of Legends was emotional and I wasn't expecting that. And Starfall Street put a very nice twist on your usual evil team story. And the characters made it all more engaging. Normally when it comes to Pokémon, I will say that they all get a pass because nobody made me want to strangle them. But I actually enjoy them a lot, like Nemona, your rival in this game. She's Goku. She's literally Goku, and as a Mexican, I speak for all the country when I say she's part of our culture now. Just like Goku. Penny was a character that I was ready to dislike because I didn't like her design at first. But in the end that didn't matter because she was a great character that I enjoyed. And Arben, this guy was so good, I can see him become just as popular as Zane from Black and White. And yes, I just said that, but he was that likable. My only complaint with these characters is that I wish they had interacted between themselves more often. They bounce off each other so well, so I was left wanting more interactions between them. But hey, at least that speaks volumes on how enjoyable they were. I even thought that the attempts at world building were decent too. The school setting is something that was implemented incredibly well because it never gets in the way of your adventure. The classes work as optional tutorials, making handholding non-existent. I actually learned new stuff I genuinely didn't know about the new mechanics. And the other classes were interesting simply because they added useful information and lore. Scarlet and Violet effectively eliminated the pacing issues I had with Gen 6 and 7 as a whole, and I really appreciate that. As for everything else about the game, well, the graphics are atrocious, inexcusable, and an ugly mess. Even the colors are ugly, I feel they're too bright at times. And I hate to say this, but I think Sword and Shield... no. Even Legends Arceus look more appealing. because in this game there's never a single moment where you stop and say, wow, this looks kinda nice. I will say though, at first I wasn't too fond of how the characters look in this game, but they have grown on me. Maybe it's because they're way more expressive this time around, and they look even better during CGI cutscenes, which ain't half bad when it comes to enhancing the game's most important events. But holy shit, these cutscenes beg for voice acting. It's so awkward seeing these characters so full of energy but not a single word comes out of their mouths. It's almost as embarrassing as that infamous Spear scene from Sword and Shield. They were able to hire Ed Sheeran for the fucking credits music, but still can't afford voice actors for these games? Come on now! At least if there's something we can always expect from Pokémon is that the character designs will be good, right? Well yeah, that should never be a worry, and Scarlet and Violet are no exceptions. Most of the characters are well designed, are pretty and memorable, and the new monsters themselves have a bunch of fantastic standouts. I personally cannot put these decks anywhere close to my favorites in the series, but there were still a lot of new Pokémon that I liked, and I made my own team full of Paldean Pokémon. And that's all I can ask from a new generation. The music is also another thing we should never worry is gonna be bad, and Scarlet and Violet have a lot of great tunes. This one was a standout for me because Toby Fox from Undertale was even more involved this time around, and his songs are easily some of the best in the game, right next to all the Team Star battle themes, which are also incredible. I think the only song I wasn't a big fan of was the Gym Leader theme. You wanna know why? It reminds me to penis music. Pokémon Scarlet and Violet are games that I like, and I wish I could like them more. But I can't because it is outright unacceptable the state in which this product was delivered. It is literally unfinished, and I don't think there's any excuses. You have the Xenoblade Chronicles series looking beautiful without compromising the overall quality. You even have third parties putting their games on the console without many issues. Even Legends Arceus, while that game looked ugly, it didn't have as many problems as this one. And I played that on a faulty emulator. This honestly worries me a bit because Scarlet and Violet sold over 10 million copies during its weekend release. This will basically reinforce the Pokémon Company's mentality that they can get away with anything they want as long as it has the Pokémon name on it. That makes me a bit uneasy about what will become of this series. But it's also sad because Scarlet and Violet deserve to be remembered for being titles that improve on many things, not because of how broken they are.
I mean, if you enjoyed the game, that's fine, I did so too. But we need to let these complaints be heard because they exist and they need to be addressed. It's not a guarantee, but maybe a low Metacritic score, some refunds, or maybe all those memes all over the internet can push some executives to think that they need to change some things. Don't stop because the overly wholesome social media guy told you to stop. You know, that always pisses me off. That there are some Pokémon fans that you tell them that they deserve a better game and they will go,